Last month, a man brought in a Ram from 2018 with 90,000 miles. The truck looked perfect, garage kept, clean as the day he bought it, but his transmission was shot. It was a repair that cost $5,800. The worst part? Completely preventable. One service he did not know he needed because his dealer told him it was never due. I see this all the time. And it is not just transmissions. It is lifters, injectors, differentials. Stuff that costs thousands to fix, but pennies to prevent. So today I am giving you the complete maintenance schedule. What is actually due, when it is actually due, and what happens to your truck if you skip it. Follow this, and there is no reason your Ram will not hit 300,000 miles without a major repair. Let's start from the beginning. Number 1, every 5,000 miles or every oil change. For the 5.7 Hemi, which is the most common Ram engine by far, you are looking at 7 quarts of 5W20 full synthetic. If you have a 2022 or newer, use 0W20 instead. Now here is something important. The owner's manual has 2 columns, normal duty and severe duty. The factory says you can go 10,000 miles under normal conditions, but severe duty cuts that to 5,000. Before you assume severe duty means towing 10,000 pounds every day, here is what actually qualifies. Towing occasionally, even a small trailer, gravel or dirt roads, idling to warm up in winter, short trips where the engine does not fully warm up, extreme hot or cold temperatures. About 80% of the Ram owners I see qualify without knowing it. If any of that sounds like you, 5,000 miles is your number. And honestly, most experienced Ram owners stick to that anyway, especially if they tow. The reason this matters is the Hemi's multi-displacement. When those cylinders deactivate to save fuel, they are more prone to oil starvation. That is where the famous Hemi tick comes from. I have seen trucks come in at 60,000 miles with lifter noise because the previous owner pushed 12,000 miles between changes. That repair runs over $1,000. One customer brought in a 2019 with 48,000 miles. Beautiful truck, garage kept, clearly loved, but he had been doing oil changes at the dealer every 10,000 miles like they told him. He was towing a camper every other weekend. That is severe duty all day long. By the time he came to me, 3 lifters were already ticking. If he had just done 5,000 mile intervals from the start, that engine would be dead quiet. If you have the 6.4 Hemi in a heavy-duty truck, the oil specification is completely different. It needs 0W40, not 5W20. I cannot tell you how many trucks I have seen where a quick lube shop put the wrong weight in because they assumed all Hemis are the same. The 6.7 Cummins gets 15,000 mile intervals with 12 quarts of low-ash diesel synthetic. The 3.6 Pennistar takes 0W20. Pretty straightforward. While you are doing the oil change, this is also when you should rotate your tires. Every 5,000 to 7,000 miles keeps the wear even and extends tire life significantly. It takes 10 minutes if you are already under the truck. Also do a quick visual check of your brake pads through the wheels, look at your suspension components for obvious damage, and glance at your tire sidewalls for cracking or bulging. These 30-second checks catch problems early. Number 2, 15,000 miles. If you own a Cummins diesel, this interval is critical. The 6.7-liter Cummins has 2 fuel filters, one on the engine and one on the chassis, and both need to be replaced at this interval. This is the single most important maintenance item on a Cummins. Those filters protect injectors that cost $650 each. A full set runs close to $5,000. I had a guy bring in a truck last year with destroyed injectors because he stretched his filter interval to 25,000 miles to save money. The filters cost $60. Do the math. Use quality filters, Fleetguard or Mopar. Cheap filters have been documented coming apart internally. While you are at it, check your diesel exhaust fluid level, called DEF. Diesel exhaust fluid needs topping off every few thousand miles depending on how you drive. Use brand name diesel exhaust fluid from a high turnover location like a truck stop. Cheap jugs that have been sitting on a shelf for a year can crystallize and clog your injection system. That is a repair you really do not want. For gas engine Ram trucks, 15,000 miles is when I do a more thorough brake inspection. Pull the wheels off, Measure pad thickness and check the rotors for grooves or hot spots. Factory pads usually last 40 to 60,000 miles depending on how you drive, but catching them early means you are just replacing pads instead of pads and rotors. This is also a good time to check battery terminals for corrosion and make sure connections are tight. RAM batteries typically last 4 to 5 years, and a weak battery causes all kinds of weird electrical gremlins on these trucks. Number 3. 30,000 miles. This is where dealer service writers start getting creative with recommendations. I've seen quotes for $700 at 30,000 miles for services that the manual only lists as inspections. Here's what's actually due. Engine air filter should be inspected and replaced if it is dirty. That is a 2-minute job that dealers charge $40 to $60 for. The filter itself costs $15. Same with the cabin air filter, though some older Rams do not have one installed from the factory. You may have to cut the opening yourself with a Dremel to add one. Differential fluid gets inspected at 30,000 miles under severe duty. Inspect means check the level and condition, not necessarily replace. Unless you are towing heavy or doing serious off-road driving, you can usually wait until 60,000 miles for an actual fluid change. This is the interval where I start paying closer attention to suspension components, ball joints, tie rod ends, control arm bushings. These trucks are heavy, and if you are running bigger tires or towing regularly, these parts wear faster than you would expect. Look for uneven tire wear, which usually indicates alignment issues. A good alignment check at 30,000 miles is cheap insurance. If your truck pulls to one side or the steering wheel is not centered, get it checked before you chew through a set of tires. Number 4. 50 to 60,000 miles. This is the big one that dealers will not tell you about: transmission fluid. Your Ram's transmission is probably labeled lifetime fill, meaning the fluid supposedly never needs changing. But ZF, the company that actually builds these transmissions, recommends service every 50 to 75,000 miles. Ram calls it lifetime because it makes their ownership costs look better on paper. What actually happens is the fluid breaks down, the transmission starts shifting rough around 80,000, and owners end up facing $4,000 to $8,000 rebuilds. I have personally seen this more times than I can count. Guys who maintained everything else perfectly, but trusted the lifetime marketing. One truck that sticks with me was a 2017 Ram 1500. The owner did every oil change on time, kept it clean, and never abused it. He never touched the transmission because the manual said it was sealed for life. Around 92,000 miles, it started slipping between second and third. By the time he brought it in, the valve body was shot. The quote came back at $5,800. The service that would have prevented it costs around $300 to $500 at an independent shop. You can even do it yourself for under $200 if you are comfortable dropping the pan. That is cheap insurance against a repair that costs 15 times more. One important note: if your truck has high miles and the transmission fluid has never been changed, do not do a full flush. The debris that has built up over time can get dislodged and clog the valve body. A regular drain and fill is safer. If you have a four-wheel drive truck, this is also when transfer case fluid should be checked. Under severe duty, it is due for a change. Brake pads on most Rams are ready for replacement somewhere in this window. Factory pads last 40 to 60,000 depending on driving style. If you tow a lot, closer to 40. If you do mostly highway miles, you might push 60. Do not ignore grinding noises. By the time brakes are grinding, you are into the rotors, and that turns a $200 pad job into a $500 brake job. This is also a good time to flush your brake fluid if it has not been done. Brake fluid absorbs moisture over time, which lowers its boiling point. If you tow in the mountains or do a lot of heavy braking, old fluid can actually boil and cause brake fade. Every 3 to 4 years is a good interval. It is a cheap service that most people forget about. Number 5. 75,000 miles. At this point, your truck has some real miles on it, and certain components start showing their age. Shocks and struts do not have a hard replacement interval, but 75,000 is when I start seeing them wear out on Rams. Signs include excessive bounce after hitting bumps, nosedive when braking, or the rear end squatting under loads it used to handle fine. Factory shocks typically last 75 to 100,000 miles. If yours are original and the truck feels floaty or bottoms out easier than it used to, they are probably due. If you have a four-wheel drive truck, This is when I start checking U-joints and the drive shaft. Grab the drive shaft and try to rotate it back and forth. Any clunking or play means the U-joints are worn. These are cheap parts, but if one fails while you are driving, the drive shaft can drop and pole vault your truck. I have seen the damage. It is not pretty. A quick inspection takes 30 seconds and the repair is maybe $100 if you catch it early. Coolant system gets a thorough check here. Ram uses a 10-year, 150,000-mile coolant, which is great, but these trucks are notorious for coolant leaks. Water pumps, heater cores, plastic fittings, they all fail eventually. Check your coolant level monthly. If it keeps dropping but there is no puddle under the truck, you might have a heater core leak. The warning sign is a sweet smell through the vents. Do not ignore that. Heater core replacement means tearing the whole dashboard apart. Battery should be tested at this interval if you have not replaced it already. Most Ram batteries last 4 to 5 years. Anything older than that is borrowed time. Number 6. 100,000 miles. If you have a Hemi, this is when spark plugs are due. Here's what surprises most owners. Hemis have 16 spark plugs, not 8. That is 2 per cylinder. Dealers charge $800 to $1,000 for this job. If you do it yourself, quality plugs cost about $6 each. That is under $100 total for parts. You will need a 5/8" magnetic swivel socket for the rear plugs, and it is absolutely doable in an afternoon. This is also when I recommend taking a hard look at your tires. Most truck tires last 50 to 70,000 miles depending on the compound and how you drive. If you are on your original set, they are probably past due. When you replace them, get an alignment. Worn suspension components or minor impacts over 100,000 miles almost always knock the alignment out. Starting fresh tires on bad alignment, just chews them up faster. At 100,000 miles, I also do a thorough inspection of everything. Check the serpentine belt, accessory pulleys, and all the bushings and joints. This is the mileage where deferred maintenance starts catching up with people. If you have kept up with everything we have talked about, 100,000 miles on a Ram is nothing. I have customers running well past 200,000 on their 5.7 Hemis, and even further on the Cummins diesels. The key is they did not skip the things that matter, and they did not fall for services they did not need. So let me give you the simple version. Every 5,000 miles, change your oil and rotate your tires. At 15,000 miles on a Cummins, replace the fuel filters without fail. At 30,000 miles, replace the air filter and inspect the suspension. From 50,000 to 60,000 miles, service the transmission regardless of the lifetime label. At 75,000 miles, inspect the shocks and the cooling system. At 100,000 miles, replace the spark plugs on Hemi engines and perform a comprehensive once-over. If you tow, drive on dirt roads, or operate in extreme temperatures, lean toward the shorter intervals on everything. Trucks that reach 200,000 miles without major problems are not lucky. They are maintained by owners who know what is actually due, instead of trusting dealer marketing. One more thing. Keep your receipts. Every oil change, every filter, every service. If you ever need warranty work or want to sell the truck, that documentation is worth real money. A Ram with a complete service history sells for significantly more than one where the buyer has to guess what was done. It takes 2 minutes to snap a photo of each receipt and save it to a folder. If this helped you out, hit subscribe. I cover Ram maintenance and common problems every week. If you want to see the issues affecting 5th generation Rams specifically, that video is coming up next.